Hi guys, you probably have been wondering where I've been, so I'm going to explain that. Just to introduce this series of videos, or what will be a series, let me start out by saying that this is going to be a documentation with my personal experience with FMT, which stands for Fecal Microbiota Transplant. Some of you might have heard of that before, but many of you might have not. What FMT is, in essence, is it's a procedure which is it's not done all the time. Let's just put it that way, but it's becoming more prevalent, where a physician takes stool, yes, that's poop, from a healthy donor and transplants it into the gastrointestinal tract of someone who is not healthy, via several different methods. Now you can do it via colonoscopy, an enema, an NG tube, or even capsule form. So you're probably asking at this point, why would you want to ever do that? Well, if you want to know why someone would do that who's living in a Western country, it's done mostly for two reasons. Number one, the patient probably has a C. diff infection that has become resistant to antibiotics. And at that stage, it's possibly deadly. So this is definitely the better option. Let's just put it that way. Or two, possibly the patient is an autistic child in a study using FMT therapy. So it's not always about infections in your gastrointestinal tract. In some research, it's actually studying the gut-brain connection, and that term might ring some bells for some of you. So in research, though, this is where I come in. FMT is being studied for the use of solving a whole host of issues, especially when it comes to gastrointestinal issues. And research has shown that it actually is working at different levels for these following things. Currently in research, it's being studied to help resolve issues with inflammatory bowel disease, including Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, also irritable bowel syndrome, SIBO, and that's just a couple things that have to do with the gastrointestinal issues. But also there's studies being done with what happens when they use FMT with people with depression, anxiety, even neurological diseases, and that's because of that gut-brain connection I was talking about. Even though all these things are being studied right now in research, currently in Western countries, including America, Canada, England, places like that, unless you're doing an FMT for those two first reasons I talked about, you're dying from a C. diff infection, or you happen to be an autistic child specifically in a study for FMT treatment, it's not actually legal for a medical professional to perform this on you. Now, I have actually talked to people, and I know a person who have done this themselves because they were desperate. In fact, I know a person who actually had a C. diff infection, was dying, and the hospital this person was going to refused to do an FMT. So they did it at home. You can read about that yourself. I do not condone or disapprove. I have no opinion about those things. All I can tell you is that I am not willing to do something like that myself because there are risks, including getting an infection from the stool that's transplanted that was not, that you didn't know about, especially if you're doing it at home. There's other ways that you can do that are a little bit safer, but again, I would rather have this done by a professional. But like I said, it's not currently legal in Western countries. However, in some other countries, it is done professionally by a medical person in clinics that specialize in this. And that is why right now I'm talking out of a hotel in Slovakia. That is where I am. And yes, it's a country that borders Ukraine. We've made these plans far in advance before everything was happening. So we've been really kind of relying on the Lord to kind of lead us whether we should continue with this or not. And that gets into my next little part here. Why am I getting an FMT? Well, I kind of want to keep these videos short, so I'll give a more in-depth explanation in another video, but basically I have horrible resistant dysbiosis, specifically an overgrowth of pathogenic bacteria in my large intestine. And this was diagnosed with a stool test. Most people know what SIBO is. That stands for small intestine bacterial overgrowth. This is not SIBO. This would be called LIBO if we were to put a name to it. It's in the large intestine, and it's actually more stubborn than SIBO is. A lot of people just call it IBS. IBS is an umbrella term for like any kind of undiagnosable problem that you have inside of your digestive system. So I really hate the term IBS. So it's more, I feel like it's more accurate to actually call it as close as you can get to what the problem actually is, as opposed to just talking about symptoms and where the problem's rooted, which is, again, it's an overgrowth, an imbalance overgrowth of pathogenic bacteria in my large intestine. And not only is this extremely resistant, but you know how doctors give you a 0 out of 10 scale for like when you go into the emergency room or you go to see just a doctor? They want you to kind of describe to them how bad your pain is. I didn't even know that level of pain existed until 4 years ago. This light switch went off in me, and it's a 10. Let's just put it that way. I'm on pain medication right now. I know I'm smiling. This is like my default face. It doesn't mean I'm happy. My husband has come to be able to read me and say, is that a smile of pain or is that a smile of happiness? Because they look pretty similar. But I'm on pain medication right now, so I'm doing pretty well. And plus I'm fasting right now for what I'll talk about later. So I'm not eating food, but when I eat food that pretty much all food, I've recently discovered very small amount of food that I can eat that doesn't do this to me. Just again, in a nutshell, it causes me extreme pain to the point where life is just not livable. I've tried just about everything, both holistic and traditional medicine wise, and nothing has worked fully or permanently in a sustainable way. So that is personally why I made this decision to do it, because you know, the research that's rolling in does support it. There is research that says with quote unquote IBS, a lot of it is not instant like it would be with a C. diff infection. It actually, your microbiome changes more slowly over time, although there are some of those miracle cases where you do instantly feel better. I would love if that happened to me, but I'm not counting on it. So basically that's the background. Today, I'm getting ready for the procedure. So that includes, if you ever did colonoscopy prep, that's basically what I'm doing now, but it's like not as bad. It's like half of what I would be taking for a colonoscopy, just to clear myself out. But I will tell you more in depth about what exactly the procedure is after I get it done tomorrow. So I guess you can wish me luck, because that's where I am right now in Slovakia, going through basically colonoscopy prep, awaiting my procedure tomorrow. All right, you want to see something cool? Look at this. It's the Liberty Bell made of Legos. See? Legos. I love these little details. Look at this tea shop. It's like flying saucers, but they're actually tea saucers. So if you heard that, that was Celtic. You can see that they have it in English, and I'm not sure what they call it. They call it Celts? Who knows? But we're in Ireland, Dublin to be exact. All right. As my husband so eloquently put it, this is probably as much of Ireland as we're gonna see. It's just a connection. But very futuristic looking, huh? That's it. That's Dublin. Look at all the things that we are not going to get. It's catered to tourists. Oh my goodness. Wow. Alright, it's not a picture.